Welcome to Growing Up, a podcast about children and young people. These podcasts were written and produced in association with the Living Assessments Project and funded by the Wellcome Trust.
This is the Spotlight series. I am Monique, your host from the University of Kent, and in this series my guests share their childhood memories from the UK and elsewhere in the world, from World War II to the 21st century. All true life stories, all unique reflections of their era. In this episode, we will be meeting Doreen, who will be telling us about her experience of growing up near Birmingham during and after the war, the difficulties of having divorced parents, in particular an absent father. But also we'll hear about her happy school days and even how to play around a bomb shelter. Hello, Doreen, and welcome. Please tell us about your background and family.
I come from Birmingham. I was born on the 11th of September 1937, so therefore I am 83 years old. I have one sister and I was brought up in Erdington, which is the north of Birmingham. I went to a school which is called Moor End Lane, which I believe is no longer there, which was a very happy school. My mother was a corseteer who made corsets in those days, and my father was a rubber worker. But during the war, he worked on the Spitfires at Castle Bromwich. I believe there is a photograph of him in a group of people at the Manston Airport Museum. Unfortunately, my mother and father divorced when my father met someone else when I was 6 years old, and my sister was just a few months old. They finally divorced when I was 7. It was a hard upbringing because my mother had to go to work to keep us because there was no benefits then, and it was just after the war when everything was very, very hard and still a lot of rationings, so things were difficult. My sister went to a nursery school which my mum had to take her to before work and then pick her up after work. I used to go down to see my mum off on the tram, which was quite a walk from our house, but it was something to do before I went to school. My mum was a loving mum. She really brought us up well and to respect people, and she put food on the table, although sometimes it was very difficult. As I say, there was no benefits then at all, so if my mum didn't work, there was no money. But we survived, and neither of us suffered for it. I went to Moor End Lane School until I was 15, and then I went to work as a cantometer operator at Stewart's and Lloyd's.
Doreen, going back to your childhood, could you tell us a bit more about network of support, maybe for your mum, where you were? Could she turn to someone? Did she have family or friends? You're talking about hardship then.
There was no network like Social Security or anything like that. But my mum had 5 brothers and sisters, and one of them used to look after me during the school holidays when my mum was working. They were all very close as a family, but of course they all had their own families and lived a distance away from us. So everything was very, very difficult in those days. And just after the war, things were very, very hard to come by. Things were difficult, but people put up with it. People were still happy that the fact that the war was over, and there was a lot of celebrations, but I cannot tell you because it was hard in those days. But there again, there was a lot of happiness. And the children were free. We used to play out in the streets, and we could be out there till 8 and 9 o'clock. And because there was not much traffic, we were safe. The roads were safe. There was hardly any accidents as such. There was a lot during the war because of the darkness, and everything had to be shielded. And people just stepped in front of something because they hadn't seen them coming. But in all, it was a happy time. Birmingham was very badly hit by in the bombs, and I remember sitting in the shelters for many, many evenings. And also, of course, sweets were on ration, and we didn't get many sweets. But all in all, it wasn't bad.
Thank you. What are your memories from school then? How was it for you?
School was lovely. I loved my school. The teachers were great. It was very hard. My sister and I had free school dinners, and we used to have to give tickets in, and sometimes the stigma wasn't very nice because in those days there wasn't many school children who had free school meals. Also, we used to have some shoes every year from the Daily Mail, which were horrible. We used to have to go into the centre of Birmingham, and they were hard leather shoes, like boys' shoes, lace-ups, and they had Daily Mail written on the top so everybody knew where they came from. But they were a pair of new shoes. We didn't get many new clothes. And I had one teacher, actually, she was lovely, and she used to bring clothes in for us, and my mum used to alter them so that we had decent clothes. But there was no school uniforms, of course, because everything was still on coupons. So everybody made do with whatever they could get. It was repair and mend then, I'm afraid. But it was a lovely life. I loved my school, and the teachers were very good. It was hard, very disciplined. We used to have the cane if we did anything wrong, across our hands and our knuckles, and very often they used to come round and tap your hand with the ruler if you were doing something you shouldn't be doing. But I think the discipline was much, much harder, I believe, than it is now. But I don't think anybody suffered from that.
Did you get the cane?
Yes, many times. Can't remember what for, but I think one of the time was talking in class or giving a note to someone that I shouldn't have been giving to. But yes.
Ooh. Did you have many regular friends to play with?
Yes, lots and lots of friends. Actually, I'm still friends with one of them now. She lives in Birmingham, and she's been a very close friend. We joined the Girl Guides together, but they didn't go on outings and camps and that then. We were just in the school hall doing bits and pieces and sewing and to get our badges, but it was nice. It was somewhere to go. Because there was no youth clubs or anything like that there is now. But there were just Girl Guides and Boy Scouts and the Boys Brigade. They were good times.
If you happened to be upset or worried about something, who did you turn to?
My mum. There was always my mum. I could talk to my one teacher, Miss Warren, the one who used to give us clothes. She used to always look out for me because she knew our situation, which was rare in those days, as many people didn't get divorced. There was a lot of people who were widowed during the war, and a lot of children had lost their fathers. But mine was different because he was still here. And I feel very bitter about him now because my mum suffered an awful lot during her life. My mum was always there for us, even though she may not be there when we needed her. She was there when she got home from work.
Are you saying that your father wasn't around for you?
Yes. When I was 6, he was there until I was 6, and I was the daddy's girl. I adored my father. He was everything to me. And then he met a lady whose husband was in the forces, and he was in France. And unfortunately, she got with child from my father, and he left my mother for her. But I'm afraid it didn't work out because she died, and he was left with the baby, who was adopted by his sister and her husband, who hadn't got any children. And he never acknowledged that child, which is unfortunate.
Your father didn't come to see you, didn't remain in touch with you during those years?
Only if we went. He lived with my grandmother and grandfather, his mother and father. And if we went down there, he was there and we saw him, but he never came. He never acknowledged us. He never gave us birthday cards, Christmas cards, or anything like that. My sister is very bitter about it because she didn't have him for any years, where I had him for 6 years beforehand. She always used to say, why haven't I got a daddy's knee to sit on? Or why haven't I got a daddy to take me out? And I believe it upset her more than it upset me, although I think I kept it hidden, and it did affect me when I started going out with boys, because you look for something like him, I suppose, and you're looking for someone.
I can see that this particular situation obviously had a huge impact on your family life and on your whole life, really. Are you also saying that your father never helped financially?
He was supposed to give my mother 7 and 6pence a week, maintenance money as it was called. That was for her and for the 2 children. Her part would cease if she remarried, which she never did. Unfortunately, he did not pay this money, and my mother had to go to court many, many times to sue him for the money, and we used to have to go with her when she went to court to try and get the money from him. But unfortunately, it never materialised.
Not a nice situation. But on a happier note, I'm going to ask you the best event ever in your childhood. Event or just a period where you were at the happiest?
I was the happiest when I was at school with all my friends, because there I felt as if I was loved. I had many friends, and they were happy times at school. And we used to see each other after school in the road and play together. And where we lived in Holly Lane, we were what they called the end house, and then there was the Delta Sports Ground next to us. And there was an old air raid shelter, a brick one. And we all used to play in there, and the smell was horrendous. I remember that. And we used to stand on the top of the air raid shelter and jump down. And our parents used to go mad because they used to say, you don't know what you're doing, because it was quite high. But it was good times and happy times. I remember my mum bought me a second-hand bicycle. We used to go out to the woods and the bluebell woods and pick bluebells and bring them home for our parents. They were happy times. And we used to take a jam sandwich and some water with us and make a picnic of it, because there wasn't much in the area really where you could go for a picnic, because where we lived we were near Dunlop rubber factory, and that was a massive place. And it was a lot of it was built up with industrial sites.
Reflecting back, listening to you, I have a feeling you would describe your childhood as a happy childhood. Is that correct?
Yes. This was due to my mum and my sister and my friends. They all made it up for not having a father. My sister and I are very close, even though we don't see each other very often now. We are very, very close as siblings, and I think both of us probably gained from not having a father because we're more independent, I think, and we don't rely on our husbands like we probably should.
Sounds good to me. Can you see today the influence of your upbringing that has had on the person you are now?
Yes, definitely. I think when you look back, you see the hardships and you're more frugal. I don't think we probably spend like we should because we're thinking of what if. Also, I think you always make do and mend because you were brought up that way. I think now the older people are all more or less like this though, because this is how we were brought up. We were brought up with nothing really, most people. So therefore what we've got now we appreciate. We really do appreciate the fact that we get a pension, which our parents didn't get. We've got the NHS, which our parents didn't get. Not until in the 40s anyway. And I think sometimes we take these things for granted, and I don't think we should.
What advice would you give to your 10-year-old self?
My 10-year-old self? Think things through before you do things. Don't do things on impulse. That'd be the advice I would give to any 10-year-old. And look forward, never really try to be what you're not. But try your best. In everything you do, just do your best. And you can't do any more than that, really. And I think I tried my best in life. And I hope I've succeeded in something anyway.
Doreen, that was absolutely wonderful talking to you. Thank you very much, and I hope I see you soon.
Thank you, Monique.
If you've enjoyed this episode, follow us on Twitter at living_assess. To find out more, search online for the Living Assessments Project.